Today is another epic battle. This is the blind test of Pixel 6a versus Pixel 7a. Let's go to work. First, let's talk about the main sensor, and you will hardly know the difference between the two on the first couple of images. I guess the standout difference is the trees. It is brighter on phone number 1. Phone number 2 is pretty consistent in terms of exposure, because sometimes phone number 1 will either be brighter or darker. Checking the colors of the street drawings, again, you will not be able to know which is which on the blind test. But again, the inconsistency on the last 3 images, you will notice that phone number 1 is warmer than phone number 2. Pixel 7a is phone number 2. And speaking of phone number 2, this is the difference between Pixel 6a and Pixel 7a. The new Pixel A series has the long exposure feature that is present on flagship Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro. So if you want to shoot those street lights or moving cores or that action blur effect, you will have this on Pixel 7a. This is 4K 30 FPS using the main sensor, and we're shooting in standard stabilization. And this is phone number 2. It's almost the same look and stabilization as phone number 1, but it's a bit wider, and the background is softer because there's a bit of background separation from the subject. Pixel 6a is phone number 1, and this is Pixel 7a. Let's talk about the unique features of Pixel phones, which is Magic Eraser, and this will be a hard test to make because the way I encircle the photos on both images will be different. But I honestly tried my best to make sure I encircled the garbage correctly, and this is the result. Pixel 6a is the second image. We are now shooting with the ultra-wide lens, and phone number 2 is wider and brighter than phone number 1, checking the exposure of the trees. But in those scenarios where there is less light or shadows, you will notice that phone number 1 is superior than phone number 2. It is sharper and has more details. Pixel 6a is the first image. This is now the ultra-wide video 4K 30 FPS, and although these two phones are mid-ranger, it produces flagship caliber videos that looks punchy and smooth. Well, this is phone number 2 and it's a little bit cropped in, but in terms of quality, it feels the same as phone number 1. But in all honesty, I would get phone number 1 if I need the widest possible view, and that's Pixel 7a. There's forest fire right now, so it's a little bit smoky and yellowish. And even the clouds, it actually covered the sun. That's how bad the wildfire is. This is the 2x digital crop, and this is really hard to compare. You may probably have your first incorrect answer. Pixel 6a is the first image, and Pixel 7a is the second. Okay, let's go to a more detailed comparison of the two. We're checking the highlights, and you will notice if we cropped in on the lamp, the second image controls it better. That's Pixel 7a. Great looking images, but bigger sensor means lesser noise on the image, and as we all know, Pixel 7a is a bigger sensor, and the one with less noise is the newer. If the ultra-wide sensor of Pixel 6a is producing better and more detailed images on shadows, the main sensor of Pixel 7a has better dynamic range and exposure. It also cleans up the noise better, as you can see on this photo. I will let you decide on this. Let's do a 20-second zoom with the ultra-wide, main sensor, and 2x digital crop, and let's check which has the better stabilization. This is the battle of 12 megapixel versus 64 megapixel, but in terms of details, can you spot a difference on a blind test? Let's talk about sharpness, and in terms of ultra-wide lens, this is a dead giveaway. Phone number 1 is sharper than phone number 2. But look at the main sensor and the 2x digital crop, both of them looks the same. This is the farthest crop 5 times on video, and phone number 1 is shaky. While we have 8x digital crop on phone number 1 and 7x digital crop on phone number 2. Pixel 7a is the first video and image. This is the slow motion and super slow motion test. And probably doesn't matter which is which. They both look the same. We're now looking at the portrait shots, and first without human subject, and as you can see, phone number 2 has gradual blur compared to the super blurry background of phone number 1. Again, doing this blind test, I would let you decide on which you would think is better, but I would let you know that phone number 1 is Pixel 6a and phone number 2 is Pixel 7a. So the advantage of Pixel 7a, it has a 4K 30 FPS selfie video recording, which I'm recording right now, and it has new sensors both front and back for better low light imaging. While the Pixel 6a is an older sensor from, I think, Pixel 3, Pixel 4, and Pixel 5, but this sensor is actually tried and tested, so this camera received all the updates from Google. Checking the night shots, phone number 2 is brighter than phone number 1. You would also see that the grass on phone number 2 looks natural than the over-sharpened look on phone number 1. I noticed that phone number 1 will take longer to shoot the night shot, so in some cases, it is sharper than phone number 2. But looking at the overall photo, phone number 2 also cleans up the noise better. Phone number 2 is the new Pixel 7a. Let's start testing the low-light video with less than ideal lighting, because not everyone will shoot low-light video on pitch black condition. And this is phone number 2. I noticed there's not much of a difference using the selfie camera on both phones. This is using the rear camera. Both phones is shot in 4K 30 FPS, and this is phone number 1. Well, phone number 2 looks similar as phone number 1, but I think there's more details on my face and cleaner. And lastly, this is the side-by-side low-light video on pitch black condition using the ultra-wide, the main, and the 2x digital crop. And from less than ideal light to pitch black condition, phone number 1 is Pixel 6a and phone number 2 is Pixel 7a. So this is the blind test of Pixel 6a versus Pixel 7a. There are still a lot of good things about Pixel 6a, but I think there's a lot of good upgrades on the Pixel 7a. So I guess before we end, I will leave you with this question: are the upgrades good enough?